Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. We are going to start part 10 today, the why and how. So after some feedback from different individuals, I think it's really important to understand the why and how of the APA zones and just do more of the chart reading together. So that's really what I want to do, and trying to put it all in context with one another. So let's bring over our 15-minute chart. Okay, we will do that here. Let's see if I can't get both charts on my screen at one time, just so that we can kind of understand what is going on. Okay, so there's that. Excuse me. And that is what we're looking at right now. All right. So we have a 15-minute zone down there at 92.17, 91.87. From the intraday RTH settings, you can see the big Globex gaps on this chart, just like so. So a lot of times you get that Globex fill, and then you'll see price retrace from there. So just want to be aware of that. Looks like we have a pretty good 15 or a Globex level right there. So that's what that looks like, and you can see how big it is on the other chart, just because these are all globally drawn objects. So it's very cool. So let's take off all these little circles here. I love to use globally drawn objects, just FYI. And let's also show the active zones on the 60-minute time frame here. So you see the little 60M down there. So that is there right before the open as the price comes down. And this is actually a purple line if everybody can't make that out. So we know that the zone's been actually hit quite a few times. We can see the little recoil off of it. So basically, with the APA zones set to such a small time frame, I'm looking for the zones to act as support and resistance and as a filter of when I need to be paying attention to the market. So hold on one sec. Sorry about that. And basically, as I'm looking at the zones as a filter to be paying attention to the market, it does limit the amount of information I have to process. And I think it's very important that we keep it very simple, because we don't want to overcomplicate the process, because that makes it hard to follow our rules as well as everything else. So we definitely don't want to do that. And that's why I use these two charts together. Now, the other important thing to remember is on the smaller tick charts, I love to use the APA zone setting, strength setting, set to 5, 10, something a little bit higher, okay? Because I want to see those really good levels. I don't want to see just every single SR level that pops on there. I want to see the really good levels, okay? And by using a strength of 5, we're actually using 11 bars in the calculation of the zone, just so everybody knows. All right, so let's go ahead and it looks like the market just opened with where we are right now. Obviously, that 60-minute demand zone down there, and it looks like price has done its little stair-stepping effect for us, But we have a massive move that came down here from 94.84 all the way down here to 93. So big move in the Globex session. Kind of doubt, because it's such a big move, that you're going to see a gap fill on that day. But hey, anything's possible in the market. But just experience-wise, kind of doubt that you'll see the gap fill happen. So let's go on into reading our bars. So based on this price action, we're making a lot of these candles are making new highs on every single candle compared to the previous candle. So we know that we're pretty much in an uptrend. And obviously we had our nice little retest here, making the first the first higher low at this point, and we are coming up from there. I do want to watch this level just to see what happens, so we're going to go bar by bar until we see this. Considering that we have a downtrend going on in the Globex session right now, it's a pretty steep line right there, So I'm just looking for a good retracement, and actually I do not have a couple things showing here. Let's go grab my APA trender, and let's go put this thing on as well. It's nice to know what the APA trender is saying on the 500 tick. Okay, so we got that as well, and you can kind of see obviously the APA trender is pointing down. A lot of times we do see a nice little retracement up to the trender, but right now we're in the middle of nothing. So just going to be using the zones as a filter of when I really need to be looking to trade, as well as I'm going to be using time too. So right around the top of the hour and the bottom hour, basically every half hour is pretty good. 7 o'clock Pacific time up until about 7:10 tends to be a turn as well. So that's a little bit irregular from my normal top and then bottom hour times, just because it's usually about 5 minutes before and after. So this is actually a really good retracement here, like a nice little double bottom, if you will, sitting at the bottom of this zone. So we could get a nice little retracement off of this thing. And obviously price engulfed, and you could be taking a small risk, type of trade setup with 16 ticks to your first target of about 30 ticks. So let's see what happens there. Well, we got some good motion there, but it looks like it didn't quite make it up there, So, and we know that this is a counter trend trade based off the Globex level. All right, so once this thing has come in like this, I'm thinking that it's really starting to coil. You can see the zones and how they're forming on this thing, so thinking it's really starting to coil. But something else to also read for your first target. You see this little green candle in here. If you want to use that as a first target, by all means do. But you remember that green candle amongst all the red candles. Sometimes that's a really good area to be placing a target on, especially if you can get like a one-to-one type of deal. So if price is coming back down on you, you can easily pull off the one-to-one. Running multiple contracts, you can let a runner to run for the big winner if you really want to do the counter trend at this time. Which 60-minute levels are wonderful levels to be basing off of. You have a pivot point at right over here, just so we can all see this on our current 500 tick chart. So we have a pivot point at 43. So we know that is a pivot point right there. So not surprised to see a little bit of resistance at that area. And boom, you get blown through, and we are going lower. All right. So looking down at the zones inside the 60-minute time frame, we can see that we do have a few in the middle as well as one on the bottom of this zone. So the downtrend is still intact. The counter trend trade, if you took your first target there, that worked, but obviously it didn't work to pull it up to the next zone of opposite type. So Really nice idea would be as we come into the normal US Open for all the indexes would be to like grab a short out of this area. But, we got to wait for the right setup, you know. Hovering around the Globex. Just going to use the zones as the support and resistance to come into something. Not feeling anything right now. Retest of the Globex level may give us a little bit of resistance, maybe a shot down to the downside here as we lose a little bit of momentum. And there's our little shot to the downside. Retest this zone, right? Or I shouldn't say retest the zone, but retest the low. That's really what we're looking for, is a retest of the low. Comes back up, and boom. All right, so now we're getting into this big level here. All right, and we really kind of got a one bounce off of this thing already right there, even though the zone didn't change in color. But I kind of consider that a good bounce because price actually did leave this area, came back into it. So I still want to wait. The time, technically time could be an asset right now as the U.S. market opens. And see this push this thing down a little bit, But we have the like the inside Harami candle type of thing going on there. But just because you see a little inside candle doesn't mean you should jump on right away, because this level is going to act as resistance, no matter what. And to see a little bit of jitter on these areas, it just makes sense, So let's see how price action acts right now. We're still getting new highs. Every single bar here has made a new high. So it's not giving us a real good entry yet, but technically this is a very, very small bar. You'd be looking to enter at like the bottom of the green bar, and possibly push down to the downside if something like that were to occur here. That's kind of the idea of, engulf the previous green bar and push to the downside. That may be a really good target considering risk on this trade right now. And I'm just using this as a sense of a trend following type of trade. You're looking at 9 ticks to that line again, which is about 13, something in there. The setup's not there right now, but that's something that I would be watching for, So let's see if something happens like that. And boom, comes back down, and do we get filled? Yep, you get your first target there. And now it can come back down to the Globex level, which will probably act as some support here again. Realizing the big picture, as we're looking at the big picture here, this is purely a big 60-minute zone down here. All right, so this is what it looks like on the smaller time frame. So you can kind of see how that level has acted as support and resistance throughout time. So I won't be surprised on such a small time frame as this tick chart to see that type of price action happen again right there. But it doesn't have to get down there, but that's just a resistance area to be watching out for. And hopefully that's the why and the how behind that line right there. 60-minute level as well as your Globex low level, So to be placing a counter trend trade off the 60-minute level, I love to play the 60-minute levels with the Globex high or low in them. A lot of times they tend to be really, really awesome and really, really cool trades, but you got to get a really good reversal candle in there before you do something to the high side, and it depends upon when you're looking at entering that trade. If you can get a quick little retest like something down there, that's great, but this is counter trend considering the big movement that we have had in the Globex session here. So we definitely got a second bounce, or technically a first bounce on this zone, considering how the zone logic is playing out for us. It left the area, and now it's coming back through. Our trender is right there, so let's see what happens. The pivot point is also right there too. Okay, so we got into the next zone, and then look at what we have there. We have a dragonfly doji. Okay, so let's see if we get a little push to the downside. This area can act as resistance here, but I think I've talked about this a little bit before. Not all zones are created equally, okay? And we need to put that in context a little bit. So while the zones act as a filter for us, we don't need every single zone on this small time frame to hold, okay? Obviously, this bar came up and touched the top of the zone. It has failed to break it, but we could also see a little bit more of a push to the upside as well, you know? So this zone is really, really weak to me. And I guess the reason why is, and maybe some of my thinking and logic behind this is when we see price action come into this general area before, we saw price action come down here and then retest where that pivot was, all right? And if we take these three candles combined, you actually have a fairly good zone, and look at where I'm putting the bottom of the zone. It's at the close of that red candle, which is exactly where the pivot point is, as well as this. So technically speaking, if you wanted to move this zone around, and you can do so by unlocking your zones, you can lock and unlock your zones. So I would say unlock your zones, adjust the zone around, and then lock it again so you don't accidentally do something there. I feel like that was a really good retest of that. Okay, so let's see what happens. And obviously we break through that area, and we're going along. Okay, now the trender has turned over to the green side here. So we could see this doji that was just formed, as well as the pivot point and the trender line, as well as these previous lows, you know, like the dead zone type of idea. We could see that dead zone get some love right now. All right, so let me take that off. But I'm really looking at this previous high. Oh, that was interesting. And that was the wrong button. I accidentally refreshed my chart. Appears that I'm having some issues with my circle tool. Actually, with all my tools. Let me see if I can figure this out here. Stay in drawing mode. Let's try that. Whoa. There we go. Alright. So let's get back to reading stuff here. Sorry about that, guys. So anyway, I expect to see price action come back to this trender here and possibly act as a little bit of support, because we do have the previous highs right there, and I'm taking that whole candle into the idea or the premise. So from top to bottom of that candle's wick, as well as right over there, that's what I'm looking at. So I just see a lot of support there coming in right at that pivot level. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a little push to the upside. But this is technically like kind of a trend following trade, but there is no zone there. It's kind of a dead zone trade, if you will. And we'll see if we can't. Okay, now we got a zone forming. All right, so let's see if we can't get a quick little retracement back down into 45 level, and push it a little bit to the higher. You know, it doesn't look like we're going to get that. No red candles in here at all, so it's no place to really jump in. You know, and I don't really recommend you use a stop that's, you know, like 30 ticks big or so, 35 ticks big. You know, I mean, you can if you want to, but it's your personal choice. So, just out of curiosity here, what is comfortable stops for everybody here in the room today? I'm just kind of curious what we have in the room. I know every single trade's different, and obviously the zones do a lot of that money management for us. We have 10 ticks. Let's see if we have anybody else popping in here. 20 ticks. I like that, you know. 20 is cool. I don't mind taking 20. But 30 is a little bit much for me. 20 ticks, that's understandable considering the crude oil market, but 30 ticks is just a little more than I want to go. Plus, we don't really have a real great target up here. And if we do have a target up here, it would be something like the gap fill, you know, at maybe 94.30 area, you know, something like that. It's still a little ways to go up there, but I mean, anything's possible. So that would be your target right there, you know. If you were to get in off of the zone right here, and if you are going to get into the zone right here, it's basically going to be some type of a breakout trade, because here's your high. Just to the previous high, you know, you're looking at 20 ticks, and you know, once you've confirmed that, and technically the price action did engulf this doji, you know, we're going with the trend, and so as soon as it engulfs the doji, you could get in right here, and you got 12 ticks of risk to, just out of curiosity, about 12 ticks of risk. So that's a 1-to-1. So you could have played that just as soon as it engulfed the previous doji right here, you know, for a 1-to-1 quick ratio. Totally could have. You know, trend following, pivot, previous swings, all that kind of good stuff lines up really nicely. All right, but your second target is technically up there, or possibly at that 30 level. And just out of curiosity, let me see if I can see a 15-minute zone up there at all. 15-minute zone is at 94.55. So we could also play that level right there. But that's a pretty good risk to reward on that thing, you know. So that's not bad. But technically, if you wanted to do that, hey, it's up to you. it's your trading. But that's just what the price action and what I'm reading from the price action as we're going along. And it is a true price action type of deal, but it is, if we look at our time, it is right around the 7 o'clock hour. Okay, so we're coming up here, still in the 7 o'clock turning time possibility, getting up to 94, and we just got that first engulfing candle. Now, this could be good. I mean, 7 o'clock is a very good turning time, but you know, and you just engulfed with that shooting star at that level, but you're in the middle of nowhere. You know, like I only have a few different time frame zones on here, but I don't really see this being a really popular area. We may have a previous zone that looks something like this over here at that about 94 even, but we're still about 20 ticks away from that even, you know. So I just wouldn't take that right now, because the market can do anything. Okay, so now we have a zone forming here, right? And the green candle, this green candle failed to break the previous green candle. So Because that happened, technically if you wanted to take this as a price action entry on this candle here, um, that's the level that you need to break, okay, from a price action standpoint. Technically, I would like to get filled at the open of this bar, and if you're going to do the short, you're looking at about 17 ticks of risk to first target of about 34. Could see a little bit of jitter at like 59, and the reason why is just because that's where the previous highs are, but that's kind of what we're looking at. So that's really not that bad of an entry if you're thinking that this is going to really turn here. We have the time of day lining up for it. We have that zone lining up. The trender is not in our favor right now, but the long-term type of stuff is. Okay, so put that into consideration. Technically, it's still 17 ticks of stop, so you want to be careful of that. But maybe you want to just pull off the first one at 17 ticks, which is probably really close to those previous highs. Yeah, it is. It's really close to that. So that technically is a good price action entry with a little bit of confirmation of the zone, and it really depends upon how you see the trend. But if you still think that the trend is down, which obviously we have been moving down, we failed to break the highs up here, and it really does look like we're moving down. Okay, so but realize where we have the zones at too. 60-minute zone is right down there, so it may just be a pull just to that. We don't know. Anything in the market can happen. Absolutely. But that's 75 ticks, and the market seems to be flowing pretty actively right now. Like, it seems like it has some gusto, because, that didn't take us hardly any time. That was a half hour, and we're already looking at 75 ticks to get back down to the Globex low. Plus, we've hit the Globex low in that level so many times already today. Like, it's just retested, support, resistance, all this kind of stuff. That it feels very easy for me to break. Like it could easily break to the downside in that trend following type of deal, but you're still looking at 17 risks to get into this trade to the downside. So, and we are going against the trender. So that's kind of how I see this. Let's see what happens. Looks like we got some chop there. A really good retest of this bar, or of the zone. Maybe it's a little high. You could easily call that a bounce, and if you want to take the zone and modify that down a little bit, you can definitely do so. So it's right down to, technically speaking, if looking at the consolidation of this area, I see the consolidation area being about 17 ticks. Because you see, like, we have all those small bars, and then we finally get one bar, but it's in like the wrong direction almost. So if this area is really going to hold, I would say that it's kind of forming like this. So it's bigger than the preceding bars and stuff, but epizones give us like the zone there, and if you have to modify it, you have to modify it. But it may be important in the future. We don't know. But that's kind of how I see this thing. And boom. Okay, so now we've hit our first zone here, right? And in theory, if you were taking this thing short, then you would have gotten something nice. Now, looking at the trender at this time frame, this could be a potential area for some good support, right? The trender is slightly above us right now. Previous high is slightly above us, but it's really retesting that area as well as the pivot quite nicely. Okay, so I'm kind of thinking it could be a little bit of a battleground right in this area here. Just observation, previous high up there, previous thing, like this could chop around a little bit at this time. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm just doing bar by bar analysis. Fortunately, I wasn't really able to trade this morning, but we'll see what goes on. So I'm thinking that this could be a little bit of chop, just reading how these highs are put in from previous levels and possibly some support. We could see resistance turning into support and maybe possibly some chop going around here. Looks like I also have a 15-minute level popping in at 93.15, so looking for some chop, you know. But technically from a trend following way, following the trender, we've hit the 60-minute level and we could go a little bit higher, you know. Anything's possible in the market, but we gotta let price action confirm a move to the upside if we were going to do so. So let's see if we get any green engulfing bars or anything like that right now at this level. We got a green bar, but you know, that's not all that great. The trender just turned red again, so kind of confirms this move from up here, this price action entry from up there, and back down. Let's see if the next red bar pushes even lower. It failed to break the low of the green bar there, so this could be some consolidation here, and coming back up inside this green bar right there, kind of deal. Oh, we got. Okay, so at this point, it really does feel like I'm getting a little bit of consolidation in here. You know, it's right around the pivot. Zone's right down there. So wouldn't be surprised to see price consolidate, and then we just get a real quick pop down there and maybe back up. You know, just a real quick bounce on that level. So let's see if we get a quick bounce on there. And the trender's now red, but it's flat, and so it's you know, chopping out for us. When the trender goes flat, it's usually a pretty choppy market, just FYI. So there's our little touch, and let's see if we don't get a little bit more range on this area. Okay, it comes back down, breaks a new low. All right, so we had technically our one bounce right there, but this thing is looking like it's still pretty weak to the downside. So let's see what happens. This could be an interesting area to get onto the downside if you're able to reduce your risk in some price action manner. You know, kind of like an engulfing candle here that we just had, an outside engulfing candle. You know, maybe put your stop up just above 50, and it's still about 20 ticks. The market's moving pretty good today. And boom. Let's see what happens here. All right, so kind of an interesting area to jump on board, or to jump on board when I was talking about this a little bit earlier. But you know what? You're right in the middle of the chop, you know, but your trender is going red and it's flat, so you know that this is chop area. And if you really wanted to get on, something like that would be a way to do it. So let's see if we can't break through this 60-minute level. Okay, now we're coming into another zone. Let's look at our time of day. So we are right around the 7:30 time. So let's see if we get a little pop. And back down. There we go. And as you can see, 7:30 is kind of a little pop in things. I'd really like to draw a trend line right now, just so that we have some inclination as to where we're going here. That's kind of how I draw this trend line, so realize that this could be support up in that area now. Actually, let me draw it with a ray instead here. And that's what I'm kind of looking at. All right. So that was an amazing entry if you're still thinking short through all this. Really cool. Time of day, you know, all that stuff lined up. And remember how I was telling like 7:10 sometimes tends to be kind of interesting, and it looks like it almost cut off directly at like 7:09 and 48 seconds, like it decided to leave, which is kind of interesting. So it's kind of cool. So expecting to see a retest of the trender, and obviously we got a little bit of love off of this level as it acts as temporary support inside of the big 60-minute level. And I'm going to turn off the 15-minute levels. But we are inside the 60-minute level, so just so you guys know. And let's see if we don't get some love of the trend line here. Retest of that zone right now, and it goes right through. Okay, so got a little bit of love, but not much, that's for sure. So the market can do anything that it wants to do, but you could have jumped on there, and if you were really brave, you could have jumped on something like this too. So technically that was, I think it was like right here is where I was kind of looking to jump on from a price action standpoint, as well as a trend following time of day type of thing. Okay, so that's something to be looking at there. All right, but let's just say that this was like an entry point. Now, if you're going to be playing in a chop like this, and doing all that kind of fancy stuff, obviously you've been in the position now for a while. Actually, I would want to be pulling in right there. So you've been in the position now for about 30 minutes probably. Yeah, somewhere around 30 minutes. Yeah, it has gone down quite a ways, but you're playing in chop and realize that this area could be retested as resistance now. You see all that chop area in there? It's really, really ugly. It's just a really ugly area, but something like that could get retested, and so your entry could get retested here, and depending upon where you put your stop, let's just say you put your stop either here at 13 ticks. Actually, the trender is not a bad level to play at all, and that gets you about 19 ticks, just a little bit above it. If you were to do something like this, it's up to you what you want to do with your personal trading, but there is some type of resistance coming on right in this area here, and that's a little bit more of a conservative stop. Obviously or liberal stop, I should say. It's bigger, than putting it kind of right where I put my zone per se. And this is what I feel like is the zone. That's what I'm thinking and kind of how I would draw that level. So let's see if it does get support here. The trender coming down here and being right there too is probably going to help us out a little bit. For some reason, I'm not seeing my moving averages on the chart, but it doesn't matter. So that's kind of how I'm reading that, and don't be surprised to get a little retest if you're playing in the chop to get your entry retested. That was the big key of me explaining all that stuff, is just don't be surprised to get your entry retested. And this is a pure price action time of day type of entry. There's no zones, so it's not a trade that I would really like to take personally speaking, but from a price action standpoint, why not? The market's not highly efficient, so you have to give the market a little bit of lead room, with every single thing that you think about and every single thing that you do. So always give it that lead room. Now we're coming back here into a new zone that was just formed, and obviously this is more of a support resistance type of area. This being support, we got a little doji inside of it, but don't hold your breath on this one at all. Price has kind of been right around in this area a whole lot, so it's still in the chop area, so to speak. So if it breaks it, that's fine. Not all zones are created equally. And it broke it by just a tick, and it looks like we're getting a little bit more chop in that level. Coming down to this thing, it is at 8 o'clock right now, so it's kind of also the inverse of that trend line, so maybe you'll get a little bit of pop, but the time of day might help it get a little bit a pop on the second one, maybe fake some people out to the upside, as this may be like a quote-unquote area of resistance here. But it did make a new low compared just by one tick compared to this previous bounce on the zone. So we don't expect anything to hold right here. All right, and boom, it pushes through it. All right, so we're still going down, and hits the zone, comes back up off of the zone. Yeah, it's still in the 8 o'clock time of day, but this thing really looks like it's got some downwards potential here, you know. So let me fast forward to where we are here on the 15-minute, just because I want to keep things in perspective on both of these charts and stuff, you know. It's pretty important. I always like to put the 60-minute time frame on here as well. I think we kind of covered that from the previous lesson. For whatever reason, it's not on there. But should see some 60-minute zones. You can see actually the double top here. Well, in the bigger term, or in the bigger perspective, that was pretty close to like a little double top, because we know that the 60-minute zone was right there, and that was really beautiful bouncing off the 60M. Where are we on the downside of the 60M? Looks like we're all the way down to like 91.87, so we still have some room to go before we hit the next 60-minute zone. So I would say just let this thing roll down, you know. And if you want to, try to jump on board, but hopefully a zone will pop up on something like this, and you get a real quick retest of this bar right in here. And when you get the retest of that and the zones there, then maybe you can jump on board in a price action type of trend following way. But I'm still looking for, you know, 91.87, a nice move from supply down to demand. Got a retest of our trend, or I'm sorry, of the Globex low. Hopefully that this acts as support here, or excuse me, resistance here. It's so funny because I still get the terms flipped around sometimes. I've been doing it for so many years. But anyway, let's see if this thing comes on down. There we go. Let's break through this level now. 830, if we look at 830, technically this lies within about the 830 range when it was retesting up there. So let's look at 9 o'clock. Here comes 9 o'clock here, broke through. Still in the 9 o'clock area here, and small bars, so consolidation, right? And the zones acting as our filter, you know, time of day filter type of deal. So let's see if we can get any engulfing candles. We could see possibly a nice little retracement up to one of these areas and a trend following way. It's really chopping out here, you know. What I'm looking at in this particular area here, why are we chopping out here? Look at previous lows, all right. Actually, it should be kind of more of a zone-ish area, right? And we can turn on our zones to show something that looks like that. Actually, the zone that this thing bounced off was older than that, but that's kind of the area that I'm looking at. And actually, the two zones combined gives us a really nice area to look at together there. So the low of this candle, as well as the high of that dead zone right there, I'm looking for a flip-flop to happen, and that's what we see with that one. So this resistance area has already done its job, and now anything can happen, and we can easily pop up through this and test that up there. Let's see if it goes. Come on, get it a little bit higher. I might move this zone down just a little bit here. just because you see all that consolidation. See the consolidation of these 3 bars and the low of, or I'm sorry, the close of that red bar, as well as, just it just feels like that's about the right size. So this is a nice little retest of that area. And hopefully you don't have too much risk to reward on this thing. We technically want to take it at the open of that green bar, so you're looking at about 15 ticks to make next zone in a trend following way about 23. That's not bad. It's not bad at all. Trender's in there with you to help you out, giving that zone a little bit of resistance as well. And can we make it? Oh, so close. And actually, that's all the data that I have on this market. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. But now that we can kind of see what has happened from this area, feel the range. Do you feel the range? Like we're bouncing in between this level and this level. You can see on the 15 minutes zone where we're bouncing at as well. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. But that's all the data that I have on this chart here. So I hope that makes sense, and I'm going to be turning off everything early today as I have a prior engagement that I need to go to. Are there any questions? Oh, I see somebody got in somewhere, and I apparently highlighted that area. So where was that at, John? So apparently some of this stuff is rubbing off on people. That's really cool. It was a while ago though, so must have been like on a. It was back at 7:10 a.m. Okay. So you got short up here off of this price action type of zone entry then, huh? That's cool. That was a really great place to get in there, Of course, this is hindsight 2020, but that really didn't look bad considering time of day, and what was going on and the big picture move from supply down to demand down here. Like, that was awesome. That's very, very cool. So, very nice there, John. Good job. That's also another reason why I do look at time of day, because if you can do stuff at the tops and the bottoms of the hour, a lot of times you get the big moves. Like just in perspective here, folks. Look at 6 o'clock. Let's look at 6 o'clock. All right, 6 o'clock. Boom, right there. All right, 7 o'clock. Boom, right there. Let me remove these. 8 o'clock. Boom, pivot right there. 9 o'clock. Right there. And 10 o'clock. I don't know. So that's kind of what we're looking at. But you see how there's a little bit of magic that goes on with those different levels, and looking at them, those levels in time as well. So kind of cool, folks. So hope that helps, and we will catch you for our next video. So have a great weekend, everybody. Bye-bye. All right, well, I stopped the recording, and thank you so much, guys, for all coming in today. I do have to run here, but I